I want you to imagine yourself as a medical student in 1889 in the audience of a live surgical theater. You're squeezed into a narrow wooden aisle alongside your classmates, all of them looking down into the center of the room where the surgery is happening. In front of you, the surgeon has just completed the final steps of the operation, and for a moment, the entire room is silent. This is the world that I'm transported into when I look at the Agnew Clinic, one of Thomas Eakins' most well-known paintings. But to really understand what's going on in this painting and what's so special about the scalpel that Dr. Agnew is holding in his left hand, we need to take a step back. The painting itself was commissioned in 1889, when 3 years' worth of medical students from the University of Pennsylvania, now my own med school alma mater, approached the renowned painter Thomas Eakins with $750 in cash and a question. Could they commission him to paint a portrait of Dr. David Hayes Agnew to honor his retirement? Not only did Eakins say yes, he insisted on a much more ambitious project at no extra cost. Rather than just a portrait, he decided to create an entire scene, including painting the faces of each medical student into the audience. It was going to be a massive work stretching out over 11 feet wide and 6 feet tall, and that meant that Eakins himself would have to sit on the ground cross-legged to paint his painting. The inscription was to read, "The most experienced surgeon, the clearest writer and teacher, the most venerated and beloved man." So how do you highlight the ambition of a man who taught himself anatomy by purchasing cadavers? How do you capture the grandeur of a surgeon who had cared for everyone from wounded soldiers in the Civil War to the President of the United States himself after he was shot? And how do you demonstrate the character of a physician who, by all accounts, brought a deeply humane, compassionate approach to his patients? Well, if you're painting a surgeon, maybe you start with the scalpel. When we look at the painting, we can immediately see that Eakins had placed the scalpel in Dr. Agnew's left hand. This is no mistake. While most surgeons are right-handed and even fewer are left-handed, Dr. Agnew was ambidextrous, certainly adding to the lore of his incredible surgical skills. By choosing to place the scalpel in his left hand, Eakins is making a small nod to that talent. As we take in the rest of the scene, it's clear that this is the end of the surgery. Agnew has stepped away to speak to his audience while his assistant closes the wound. And yet, the scalpel, even after being used to perform an entire mastectomy, still doesn't have a drop of blood on it. Its handle glistens and sparkles as if it's still brand new. Contrast this with the scalpel that Eakins had depicted just 15 years before in his famous painting of Dr. Samuel Gross in the Gross Clinic. Here, the scalpel and the hand holding it are drenched in fresh blood. Now, we know that the lack of blood was at least partly at the request of Dr. Agnew. This was his own response to knowing how horrified audiences had been at Eakins' painting of Dr. Gross just a few years before. But the bloodless scalpel also highlights the explosion of innovation that's taken place in those few short years, including the development of sterile technique. In fact, just behind Dr. Agnew's assistants, we can see a steel bath holding liquid used to disinfect the instruments during the case, including that very scalpel. This scalpel serves as a window into the incredible strides the field of medicine has made in the few short years between these two paintings. For instance, the Gross Clinic had to rely on natural light streaming in from above, and therefore always had to take place at high noon. Meanwhile, in the painting of the Agnew Clinic, we can see that artificial lights were now being used. In the Gross Clinic, the doctors are wearing suits and regular clothing, while in the Agnew Clinic, we see them wearing sterile surgical whites. In the Gross Clinic, we see that the anesthesiologist is crudely administering anesthesia through a towel drenched in either ether or chloroform. In the Agnew Clinic, we see that an ether cone has now been developed, allowing much more precision in the maintenance of anesthesia. And finally, there's the choice of the specific surgery that Eakins has Agnew performing in the painting. Dr. Agnew is shown performing a partial mastectomy for cancer. And in the days before chemotherapy and radiation, that means that he and his patient and everyone else in the room understood that this surgery would not cure her of her cancer. Instead, he's shown performing a palliative surgery, a surgery to relieve the suffering that this patient's experiencing. Eakins' decision to show Dr. Agnew performing this procedure is a powerful choice designed to highlight his compassion and humanity as a surgeon. And guys, there's one final detail in both of these paintings that I like to think of as a little 1800s Easter egg. Thomas Eakins has painted himself into both of the paintings. Now I want to know if you can spot it. I'll give you one hint. He's in the same exact position in both paintings. But without checking Google, I want to see if you can spot it, and let me know in the comments below. And if you guys would like to see any other videos like this or any specific topic, let me know in the comments too. I'll see you guys next time.